Good morning again for everyone in the room, and good morning for the first time, everyone who's joining us on Facebook Live. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being a part of this service. I invite you now just to take a moment to center yourself. If you feel so inclined, go ahead and close your eyes. Take a few deep cleansing breaths. As you breathe in, allow that cool, crisp air to cleanse your system. And as you breathe out, release all that no longer serves you. Pay attention to your body. If you need to, shake it out. Relax your forehead and your jaw, shoulders, chest, all the way down to your toes. Just relax. Allow your body to be calm and allow your mind to be here now. Universal love enfolds me. Universal wisdom inspires me. Universal spirit enlightens me. Universal power encircles me. I am one, and all is well. As we begin the inner healing process, let me invite you to relax in quiet confidence, opening yourself to the miracle-working higher power. Now symbolize the unity of your thinking and feeling nature by touching your chest with your right hand, and let my words act as your own for your own inner healing, acceptance, and receptivity. I acknowledge that there is a power, intelligence, and wisdom greater than my own. I am in the midst of it, and it is in the midst of me, sensitive and responsive to my every thought, word, action, and feeling. I now make this true for myself by saying aloud, I acknowledge. Acknowledging the higher power working through my life, I admit that I am personally responsible for solving my own problems, while being guided and assisted by something greater than myself. As I am ready to surrender the conflicts of my ego to the wisdom of the infinite presence, I simply speak these words. I surrender. Knowing that forgiveness is the key to unconditional love and the feeling of heaven, I now unconditionally forgive anyone and everyone who has ever injured me in any way, real or imagined. And I now forgive myself for all of my mistaken judgments and their resulting actions. From my deepest level of understanding, I now say, I forgive. Realizing that I continually experience the effects of my own thinking, I now choose to allow this higher power to recreate me deeply, filling my mind with thoughts that are only positive, constructive, loving, and beautiful. I call upon this divine inflow by stating aloud, I choose. I now center upon that one special idea that I am willing to accept as real for me in this coming week. In visualizing that idea as already acted upon and brought to pass, in seeing my idea become a fact of my experience, I enjoy the happiness and peace of my thought fulfilled and gratefully speak these words. I accept, knowing that I have an everlasting place in the midst of the power that sustains all creation, as well as the support of all those around me. I allow myself to relax in the peace of fulfillment and gratitude and say, I release. Now, in my mind's eye, I envision the presence of someone near and dear to me. This can be a friend, a family member, a teacher or a mentor, someone who has touched my life in deep and loving ways. Someone who may not be physically present in the room with me this morning. I turn toward that image in my mind's eye and say, I'm grateful for the good in your life. Now I open my eyes, turn to the world around me, and joyfully speak to anyone physically present in the room or virtually on this broadcast, and share in confidence and gratitude and saying, I'm grateful for the good in your life. Grateful for the good in your life.
Happy high holidays. I brought my phone up here. I thought I'd check my email. I have something it'll go away, but I want to share it with you. High Mysticism, this is one cover, this is an old cover of the book. Emma Curtis Hopkins. It needs 2 months. It needs 10 years. It is complicated, and it is beautiful, and it is elegant, and it is an awful lot to live up to. I have one word to introduce to you today. It's a word you may not know. The word is alkahest. Have you ever heard the word alkahest? Does that drop into conversation a lot? A-L-K-A-H-E-S-T. It means the philosopher's stone of alchemy. It means a solvent that dissolves any obstruction. What do we say? A panacea, a remedy to any problem. We're seeking, she says, the divine alkahest. I was amazed to find it in a current dictionary, but there it is. And it's what the alchemists of the Middle Ages and Renaissance were said to be seeking, those who were of a deeper mindset than simply the exploration for riches, the transmutation of base metals such as lead into gold, were rough metaphors for the transmutation of the base emotions into love. The sense of separation from source into oneness with source. So last week, I gave you some ideas from her about the firm foundation that exists under our feet, that we recognize and that we experience. And today, we're going to turn our attention up. We're going to turn our attention up. You know, the world's sacred scriptures, the Judeo-Christian with which we're probably the most familiar, a great many of the others, say things like this, that your salvation is not of this world. Your salvation is not of this world. And what is meant by that is that if you take this world on its own terms, on its own merits, it's not enough. Things die in this world. Things fall apart in this world. This is a world of time and space that exists in a limited framework. I was reading the other day, they've revised the expectation for when our sun will become a red dwarf. Okay, the star around which it's going to be a red giant and then a white dwarf, a red giant and then a white dwarf. He's got later information than I have. The thing's going to balloon up, and then it's going to, and eventually I imagine like a birthday balloon, it's going to go, and there we are. And it's going to be dark here, and it's going to be really cold here, and you don't need to worry about this because this is a really long time in the future. But when you hear the old songs and read the old poems. There's even, what is that awful song? Nothing lasts forever but the earth and sky. All we are is dust in the wind, right? Nothing lasts forever but the earth and sky. Guess what? They don't last forever either. A really long time, but everything in form is on its way out of form. I say this not to depress you, but let's tell it like it is. Everything that comes into form, as soon as it achieves form, enters a state, or has been all along, in a state of redistribution of itself atomically and energetically back into pure potential. Matter can neither be created nor destroyed. In the ultimate sense, it goes somewhere. It doesn't just go out of the picture, because all there is the picture. But it stops being the thing that it is. And we've gone over this before, and I know you know it. And you know, like the piano and the stage and the building and all the stuff we think is solid, it's on its way back out. This is why they say salvation is not of this world. Because if you put your trust in a thing, at some point in time, it's going to, well, redistribute itself and not be the thing that you put your trust in. It's going to take a different form. So where do we look? We look somewhere else. And our ancestors looked up. So we got the habit of looking up. It got passed down to us through the generations. Why did they look up rather than down? Down was where death went. When things died, they were, well, they decomposed or they were buried. And so a story of the underworld was created, assisted along, I think, by things like volcanoes and sinkholes and caves and various strange unexplored regions that gave rise to legends. The entrance into the underworld and the return from the underworld is the hero's journey. It's an initiatory experience. It's a very powerful metaphor that runs through all of these different traditions, faith traditions across the world, but basically it was a place of mortality. You might escape mortality for now, but it was a place of mortality. Plants died, crops were turned under. They came up as nourishment. They redistributed themselves, like we're starting to see with the first hints of autumn here in southeast Texas, which I think will be followed, as I'm just going to come in today and give you news, sports, and weather. We're going to have some rain for a few days here, kind of heavy rain and all, and I think after that, another week or two, we're going to start smelling the sweet smell of fall in this area, you know. Well, fall is, why do you think they call it fall? The technical name is autumn, you know, stuff falls. And I trusted that tree. The tree had leaves on it. The tree had fruit on it. The tree had something going for it. Now it looks like a dead stick. Well, there's a cycle that we go through. But upward, looks like things don't change so much. You can tell stories in the clouds. You can tell stories in the constellations. And this is where your ancestors and mine tended to look. It's where they expected their help to come from, whether it was the night sky or up the mountain. I will lift up mine eyes unto the hills, from whence cometh my help, says the psalmist. I will look up to the hills. That's where my good is coming from. Where did Moses go to get the laws? He didn't go into the cave. He went up to the mountaintop. It's a metaphor for inspiration, for direct knowing, for intuition. Whether he went up Mount Sinai and actually got handed tablets, believe that if you like, but it's a metaphor. Every time you meditate, you go up Mount Sinai. Every time you pray, you go upstairs. I told you about Dr. Homer Johnson, wonderful teacher in the early years of religious science, friend of Ernest Holmes. There's great backstory there. Some of you have heard it in class, but the principal thing to remember, whenever he would start to pray, and I actually heard him do this because our lives overlapped, I'm happy to say, he said, let's go upstairs. When it was time to pray, he'd say, let's go upstairs. Did everybody get up and go? No. It's a metaphor. Let's go to the upper room. Let's go to the higher place and pray. So she's telling us today, so your kingdom is not of this world. It's of a higher place. And the practical idea that she gives us is this. She says, if your mouth is saying one thing, if your words are saying one thing, like affirmation, but your attention is downcast, your words won't matter. Your words won't matter. You have to lift up your gaze. All right, what do we do with that? What does she mean by lift up the gaze? I think she means lift up the emotional state. Lift up the heart. Get excited about the reality that you wish to occupy. A lot of times we don't do that. When we pray, we affirm. We're still in the struggle. We're still complaining. And there's nothing wrong with complaining. A good complaint, and we've had plenty of opportunity here the last year and a half. A good complaint is a fine thing. It can cleanse the palate, you know. It can clear out, blow out the tubes, so to speak. But when you pray, when you do your spiritual work, in whatever sliver of time you have cut out for yourself to do that spiritual work, when you do your spiritual work, there is no complaining. There is just gratitude. There is just, if nothing else, hope. If nothing else, hope. Hope doesn't get a lot of thrust in New Thought. Holmes, Ernest, is quoted as saying that hope is a subtle illusion, that it's better than despair, but it's a subtle illusion. If we just hope, it's like wishing that things would be different. I give hope more, I don't know, energy, I guess, than he does. Because sometimes it's all you've got. Sometimes it's all you've got. And it's a fine thing to have, and hope can blossom. Hope really doesn't just sit there and wait. It doesn't loiter, you know. Hope begins to gather energy. If I hope things could be different, then I have to start believing things could be different. Then I have to start believing that things could be different for me. For me. When we affirm and know a certain thing, we have to know that it's possible for us, not just in the abstract. That somewhere, somehow, somebody did something and everything changed. Well, that's great. I'm happy for them. But if it's not possible for me, then it's not my story. So hope leads to an engagement with the possibility of a thing, and then the possibility of the thing for me, for the self. And that then leads to a dwelling on it in consciousness, where it becomes the new habit of conversation, not the complaint, and that leads to action. That leads to action, and then we begin to work behind our thing. And the beautiful song that you just heard from Jeffrey and Brian, it's all about action. It's all about a mitzvah. What's that line in there about a mitzvah is as good or better than the reading of the Torah? Okay? You understand what that means, right? The reading of the Torah, the first 5 books of the Hebrew Testament, it's the reading of the law. It's the reading of the law. We read the law to each other. We understand the law. That's great. That's a wonderful spiritual practice. And mitzvah is way beyond that, because mitzvah says, now taking this, I'm going to put this in my pocket. I'm going to walk out in the world. I'm going to confront the appearance of death, the appearance of mortality, the appearance of loss with hope, with faith, with courage, and with a new story. And with a new story. So we look up, and her passage exactly in the book, on page 273 in my copy, and they changed the pagination here and there. No insistence that I am strong and every whit whole. W-H-I-T. That's a favorite saying of hers. Do you not know? She'll point at you a lot off these pages. Do you not know that you are every whit whole? You have to say kind of, every whit whole, every little bit. No insistence that I am strong and every whit whole can be found exhibiting strength and wholeness if the vision is still upon the body's misery claims. The body's misery claims, meaning the physical self or the body of your conditions. It's not always about the physical body that you wear. It could be just life, generally. The misery claims of life. We know they're there. But when our vision is still upon them, our word falls short. Only vision above the body can bring back over the track or Tao, T-A-O, the way, of the vision, the healing alkehesis, gave you that earlier, of the heights, capital H. This is how she writes, okay? This is why we're doing 2 or more months on it. No insistence that I am victorious can bring victory if the inward vision is still resting upon the misfortunes and evil liabilities of existing affairs. Only attention to the highest best can work the best into our life lot. Only attention to the highest best. And she calls it the highest best in the sense of the greatest best and also the uppermost best. The highest on a scale of elevation. Okay? This is where we turn our attention. What do we say when conditions are improving? Things are looking up. We don't say things are looking sideways or things are looking down, but we do say when we're trapped in conditions or feel like we are, I'm feeling what? Downcast. Which could mean either like like you were cast down, thrown down, or it could mean my eyes are downcast. We cast the vision someplace or other. There was a neighborhood called Radio Row. A lot of cities had a Radio Row. Any of you folks into old-time electronics? Tubes and transistors and that kind of stuff. Well, on a Radio Row, people went for discounted, think like Radio Shack stores, okay? Small pieces of things needed to make radios work, phonographs work, eventually televisions work. There was a Radio Row here in Houston. I think it was down on South Main. There was a Radio Row on the lower west side of New York. And in that neighborhood was a hospital that was moved in the mid-1960s. In the mid-1950s, I was born in that hospital. And then they moved it across to the east side sometime in my childhood to take it down. And Radio Row, and everybody who was a vendor on Radio Row got $30,000 from the city of New York to relocate, which isn't a lot of money, but we're talking 1965, so it was something, so that they could build the World Trade Center. So it hit me 20 years ago. I'm from there. Like literally from there. What I have on my phone is a song you may have heard. And the words to it, not here to depress you. And you might have come here today thinking, I'm over 9/11. That is so yesterday. Today is 9/12. We even put something like that in the weekly email. A group called New York Says Thank You talks about, to this day, it's a charity, and they talk about what we focus on is 9/12. We focus on the coming together of people. But the words to this song, you may have heard this song quite a lot over the last 20 years. It's by Bruce Springsteen. He sang yesterday at a memorial. You may have seen. The first verse of it goes, and I'm no singer, so I'm not even going to try. But you may hear the sound, you may hear the song in your head. Can't see nothing in front of me. Can't see nothing coming up behind. Make my way through the darkness. I can't feel nothing but this chain that binds me. Lost track of how far I've gone, how high I've climbed. On my back's a 60-pound stone. On my shoulder, a half mile of line. a 60-pound stone in a half-mile of line. He wrote that about firefighters. He wrote that about the 340, I think it was, firefighters who went up the stairs in the Trade Center Towers 1 and 2 while everyone else was coming down. They ran toward the problem. This is what hope gives you. This is what duty gives you. This is what, as Springsteen brought up before he sang a song yesterday called I'll See You in My Dreams, which if you have some paper products, have some Kleenex nearby if you watch him sing this song, I'll See You in My Dreams, that he's singing to the families yesterday. But he said in his prefatory comments before singing that song, you're a firefighter, this is not what you sign up for. This is above and beyond the call of duty. Yesterday, in 20, 30 different American cities, there was the annual 9/11 climb, where firefighters and others, and anyone who wants to, who has the physical condition to do it, straps on a pack and goes up 84 floors in commemoration of those heroes. I don't tell you this story to bum you out and make you sad. A lot of times we take these heroes and we put them over here. We put them in a jar or something. You know, say, here's this hero. This amazing. 20 years ago they did this, or 50 or 100 years ago they did that, or last week they did this. We're all these heroes. We're all these heroes. Because you've got your own flights to climb and I've got mine. And it doesn't look like necessarily the inside of a burning, about to collapse office building where we're pulling other godlings, you know, to safety out of the flame. Had no idea what we're heading into. That's the one thing that we have in common. We have no idea what we're heading into. We're heading into what we signed up for, and maybe above and beyond. Maybe a little bit above and beyond. And the thing about those firefighters, and also the police and EMTs, and of course all of the workers and everybody concerned, and not just in New York, but in Shanksville, Pennsylvania, and at the Pentagon, and everybody, and you and me, and everybody who was alive at the time, who was touched by it, and all the children who were not alive at the time, who've had the stories told to them and have had secondhand trauma as a result of it. What all of us have had to do is keep rising. And that's the name of that song, The Rising. We keep rising. We rise with our dreams. We rise as we go. And those firefighters who made it up to 84 floors before the buildings collapsed, or one of them collapsed at 84, it's why they picked that number. But in my mind, when the building fell, they kept going. Okay? That's why my kingdom is not of this world. Because buildings fall. You don't expect them to. It's beautiful Tuesday morning in September. Beautiful, brilliant blue sky, touch of fall in the air, people going to work, people, you know, you don't expect things to happen. But things change. You need a lifeline. You need something greater. You need something beyond this, which is the spiritual dimension of you. I tell you this because it's been vital in my life. This is not just, you know, this is not a hobby for me. This science of mind stuff. And whether I'm speaking to you or I'm writing about it or teaching a class or whatever, even that is peripheral to my knowing that there is this place that I can go if I have to crawl there on my hands and knees, that there is this place that I can go where nothing has ever been wrong, nothing has ever been lost, no tragedy has ever occurred, to stand in that place. So I encourage you, as I do every Sunday, and all of us do in everything that we do in this place, create a lifeline for yourself. Create a path. I had a friend one time who was, in fact, an early member of this center, now deceased. He was a truck driver, the big rigs, you know. And he said, he told me something I never knew. I knew nothing about big rigs, except they always seem to come out on the road I'm late for something. There's like 5 of them right there, you know. I knew nothing, and they have like 17 forward gears or whatever. He said when you're a truck driver driving a big rig, you're always looking for an escape route. Everywhere you go. Because something goes wrong, you got all this tonnage behind you. And you got to, where is there a break in the guardrail, or where is there, you know, and you might look at that and say, well, that's negative. He ought to just affirm that it's a beautiful, bright, sunny day and a clear passage to the next destination. But life is complicated. We agreed to, on some level, to mortality. We agreed to temporality and spatiality and whatever, you know. We agreed to live in atomic soup. And how all of this is unfolding is a bit of a mystery. So we need a lifeline. We need a place that we can go. I will lift up mine eyes into the hills from whence cometh my help. Let's do that together now. There is one life, one power, one presence. Just one. One beacon of light. One alkahest or solvent. One substance, one solution, into which all problems melt, all limitations, all restrictions. There is one. And I choose to keep my eye on the one. My spiritual eye, even when my physical eyes are busy elsewhere. Even when I have to watch the ground, so I don't trip and fall. Even when I have to pay attention to the challenges of life, get the bills paid, get the kids fed. And I don't know how I'm going to do these things. My spiritual eye gazes upward, onward, inward, into that sanctum sanctorum of the divine, that holy of holies. And all I hear from that is a voice as if issuing from a being, yet I know it comes from pure beingness, a voice that says, you are my beloved child in whom I am well pleased, and furthermore, in whom I am well represented. You are a godling, a chip off the old block. The one life, having an experience of its life, through your life, through this life. Remember me. Remember me. We speak often of remembering people in our prayers. Really, prayer is about remembering. The back of those people is this one life. Back of their situations is this one life. Back of even the healing that we seek for them, the peace and the goodness and the hope, the trust, back of all that, there is the one. Remember the one. Remember the one. And so I commit to this. Do this to remember the one. And when I forget, to forgive myself and pick up where I left off, remembering the one. It soon becomes a habit. It soon moves from a hope to an experience. And I'm never alone, never lost, never even afraid. For this knowing and its manifestation in form everywhere I turn, I am so deeply grateful. I release this word now into the infinite, calling it done, and so it is. So it is.
And now, as our ushers make their way to the back, we come to giving time. I know. We love your shocking personality, Lisa. I want to thank each and every one of you for your support of the center. It's because of your support of us that we can be here to support you. So we thank you for that. We appreciate anything and everything that you give, no matter how big or how small. Trust me, it is valued, it is appreciated, it is loved. So with that, I invite you all to say with me, divine love through me blesses and multiplies all the good I am and have, all the good I give and receive. I am prosperous now, and so it is.
All right, sometimes I come up here with instructions and sometimes you get word soup. You're probably going to get word soup today. But before you get word soup, I'm going to remind you that we do have treatment available after the service. The in-room will be with practitioner Shirley Sandlin, and that will be back in the children's room in the back of the room here. And if you are online, Sarah Westbrook will be available online. Wow, word soup. Check in the chat for that number. Both of them will be available for approximately 20 minutes after the service. So, yeah. And now on to the word soup. And it's word soup because of yesterday. I let yesterday lie. I just did. Because I have a connection to it, as does my husband. Jesse referenced the hospital in New York City. My husband was also born in that hospital. Maybe not the exact same building. He may have been built in the one that moved. But, so we have very definite connections, and I just needed to let yesterday be. But when Jesse was talking about the truckers, my family's from Kentucky. We have mountains. If you've ever driven through mountains, have you seen the runaway truck lanes? And where do they go? Up. You want to stop a runaway truck, where do you go? You go up. You want to stop a runaway mind? Where do you go? Up. So let's go up. And know that there is one life, one power, one presence, one love. Each and every one of us is made of that love. And because we are made of that love, we are a conduit for that love. We are a channel for that love. That love flows through us. And as it flows through us, it does amazing things in us. And as we release it out into the world, it does amazing things in the world. So I am knowing right here, right now, that each and every one of us, every living being in the entire universe, recognizes that they are a channel of love. And that they are channeling love from an inexhaustible source, a source that will never run dry. And that love is always the answer. No matter the question, love is the answer. And I know this, and I know this with every fiber of my being. And I relax and release, because that is the point of love, to release, to let love go into all of the corners, the deep, dark corners, the brightly lit corners, to let the love flow. And I know, and I am grateful, and I am grateful for each and every one of you, and I am grateful to know this, and I am grateful for this teaching. I am grateful for this place. I am grateful for these people. I am grateful for these musicians. And I'm grateful for my partners that help us do this every Sunday, to get this message out, to get this love flowing out. And I relax, release, know that it is so, and so it is.
Say with me now, something wonderful is happening through me.
Something wonderful is happening through me.
I feel it in my body.
I feel it in my body.
I feel it in my mind.
I feel it in my mind.
I feel it in everything I am.
I feel it in everything I am.
I choose it.
I choose
I
it.
trust it.
I trust
I
it.
use it.
I use
I
it.
love it.
And I love it.
So it is.
And so it is.